What's up, guys? Justin Freeman here from runthesims.com. And today we're going to be talking about one of our tools on site, and that is called salary multiplier hit rates. And why exactly would salary multiplier hit rates be important to you at all as a DFS player? Why don't we walk through and figure that out? We go to the app here, and here you can see, just to start with, what our controls are. We can obviously choose DraftKings, FanDuel, or Yahoo slates, but then we're going to choose our slate option right here. So if we click DraftKings as our platform, we can click our main slate right here and get information that is tailor-made to the salaries of that slate. And essentially what this app is designed to do is tell you how often players hit certain salary achievement thresholds. And what exactly does that mean? I know that's kind of gobbledygook if you're not familiar with that terminology, but salary multiplier hit rates references how often does a player achieve a certain number of fantasy points relative to their salary. So obviously imagine two players. One's cost $4,000 and the other costs $8,000. And let's just say they both give you 10 points roughly half the time, right? Well, 10 points from a $4,000 player is a much different proposition than 10 points from an $8,000 player. So if they're both going to give me 10 points, give me the guy who's cheaper, right? So knowing exactly how many points to expect relative to salary is hugely important as we're picking players for our DFS lineups. And so this app here appears to tell you exactly how often players hit those different achievement thresholds based on our 10,000 simulations. So let's just use Daniel Jones as our example here at $5,300 on DraftKings. So this 1x number here says how often does Daniel Jones 1x his salary? How often does he get at least 5.3 fantasy points? Well, Daniel Jones may not be the best quarterback in the world, but he's going to get past 5.3 fantasy points quite a bit. 99.5% of the time is how often Daniel Jones is going to get past that. Well, how often will he 2x his salary? So 5,300 times 2 would be 10.6. So how often does he get 10.6 fantasy points? Well, still quite often, 89.2% of the time. Not a super high number, 10.6 for a quarterback. Okay, now things get a little bit dicey. 2x plus 3, what the heck does that mean? So we know we're essentially taking this salary number and divide it by 1,000, which is how we get to 5.3, right? So 2x plus 3. So that's 5.3 times 2, that's 10.6. So 10.6 plus 3, 13.6. So now how often does Daniel Jones get to 13.6 fantasy points? Well, he gets there 76% of the time. 2x plus 5, very similar. Let's use 2x plus 9 as an example. 2x plus 9, that's 2 times 5.3, so 10.6, plus the 9, so 19.6. How often does Daniel Jones score that many? Well, turns out it's 45% of the time. And so you'll see 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x, 6x, 7x, 8x. So we've got some baseline multiplier numbers, but we also have these ones that add in a constant, a plus 3, a plus 5, a plus 7, a plus 9. And you'll see that right there as well. Why do we do that? Why is that important? Because, well, salary is not the only thing we need to adjust for. We also need our players to have some sort of relative floor. Like, imagine a really, really cheap tight end, a bargain bin tight end at $2,500. Well, if you're looking for them to 3x their salary, they only have to get to, 7.5 fantasy points. And that's not a ton of fantasy points. If the $2,500 player gave you 7.5 fantasy points, he will have 3x his salary, which is a pretty good number most of the time. However, he didn't really give you enough points to contribute towards a win. So sometimes having 3x plus 7 as an indicator would now lift that required number up from 7.5 to 14.5. Now, how often does he get there? Well, maybe he almost never gets there, and that might make him a tougher play. So using some of those constants can be a helpful way of understanding not only the sort of salary-based component, but also sort of the minimum ceiling needed for players to be viable in your lineup. So to me, it's helpful to go in here and have an understanding of which of these columns mean something for you at different positions. And you'll see the boom rate and bust rates over in our optimizer as well. And they use these same salary achievement thresholds. I believe 2x plus 7 is going to be our boom rate, and 2x or less is our bust rate. So how often does a player fail to meet that threshold? So overall, go in there, play around. This is not really anything for you to do. It is a research tool for you to go in and understand more about a player's range of outcomes and whether or not they make sense in your lineup. Hope that makes sense. If you guys have any questions, reach out to me on Twitter at JustinFreeman18. We'll see you next time.